Well, ho ho ho, everybody, and welcome to another wonderful Whiskey Wednesday on Midnight Hatter Live. We are in the midst of festive season, and therefore we are, vibing and having a good time. It's the middle of the week, and therefore we are going to talk about, well, whatever I want to because it's my YouTube channel. So,
Exactly.
joining me as always is the Krampus himself, Adam Blue. How are you doing, buddy?
Yeah. Doing good. Again, always, middle of the week. This is just the good like decompression tool that I need. It's just you and I chilling, talking Gundam, but with the variety thrown in. It's just it's nice.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's been a very stressful work week for me, and I think it's only going to get worse until Christmas is so.
Oh wow. Oh, well, good luck with all that.
But yeah, looking at the chat, I see we've got Zeonic Shadow. What's up, buddy? Ultronymous, Stela,
Um,
Ian, Goose. How are you doing? How's everyone doing
nice.
this
Yeah,
fine
good to
fine
see
evening?
everyone.
Yeah, I am gonna go ahead and drink my cold toddy, if you will, for my sore throat. My daughter gave me whatever it was that she picked up at daycare. It hit me like a freight train. But
Yeah, like I was saying, I had that Monday, but luckily it was minimal, but
yes,
it's just making its rounds, really. And you said cold toddy, so because I actually just got some whiskey. I just haven't poured it yet. But what is the cold toddy exactly?
oh, this is just a whiskey on ice.
Oh,
But but
well,
yeah,
enough. Hey, it does the trick.
what kind of whiskey did you get?
What was it? It was the one when you go to check out, and it's behind the counter. We just assume that's the better one, but Southern Comfort, maybe? Uh, I don't know. I haven't had
Sounds
that
good.
before. I'm only wanting to jump into that because we were doing tequila last week and it just stopped working. I don't know why. Um, oh, in
Yeah.
fact, my wife is bringing it over to me right now. So,
Hey, cheers.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
tonight I'm actually this is Clyde May's bourbon whiskey. So I went for the good stuff. Normally I just, get whatever rail bourbon I can find because
Oh, bourbon. So that's like, wait, and I think I'm actually getting tequila, by the way.
oh,
So,
hey, cheers.
yeah, salt and oh yeah, oh yeah. There we go. I'm ready to get started.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Thanks, wife. Always supportive.
Cheers and thank you. Um but yeah, no, I mean, what kind of tequila are you guys drinking tonight?
Patron Silver. And you know what? It's not
Very
that
nice.
expensive really to get
No,
because we bought a pretty good sized bottle and it lasted us a few weeks.
that's
Um,
good.
I mean, yeah, it wasn't even that big of a bottle, and it's not that expensive. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm a terrible Mexican. I am not a huge fan of tequila.
Oh,
But as you say, it works. It gets the job done.
yeah, yeah. We'll see about this. But yeah, I'm really more into the whiskey. You know, something I want to bring up real quick before we get started.
Please do.
Um, do you remember this Psycho Zaku Robot
Yes.
Spirits? I got it. I did a video of it. I remember, and
He
this is
was
the thing.
missing the mouthpiece.
Yeah, that premiere here is I'm going to be making a video about this, but when I got it, this is, what the head looked like. And I remember in the video, I'm like, there's something off about this. I don't know. Is this really the one from Thunderbolt or what? Well, Bandai sent me a replacement head to put right on it. And I got to say that's cool. One, the customer service, but two, just looking at it, I admire how robot this is. This is just like a sick looking robot, like
Yeah,
regardless of Gundam and like thruster feet. So that kind of made my week actually getting that from them. So
that's awesome. Hey,
I know
Bandai delivers for Christmas. You're
it's
not.
true. Yeah. So close to
It's
Christmas. Yeah,
what was that movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger? Jingle All
you
the
go all the
Way.
way.
Yep.
That's You know what? I was thinking, what is my Christmas movie? I think it's that because I used to watch it with
Think
my little
so?
brother all the time. It was his favorite. We just watched it on repeat. And isn't that Anakin Skywalker?
Sure
So,
is.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger. So, yeah, there
Yeah.
we go.
It always comes back around to Star Wars. 6 degrees of Star Wars
Oh my
separation.
gosh.
It's
Well, actually, real quick, that reminded me. So, you know how there's that conversation or the argument discussion about Die Hard being a Christmas movie?
hmm
Um, what is your take on that? And it
My
is?
wife and I are in favor of that. Now, I
Okay.
did buy the 5 disc Die Hard collection, and but Die Hard 1 is the only one that's a Christmas movie. You can't watch Die Hard with a Vengeance, even though it is the superior Die Hard because it's
I
got
love that
Samuel L.
one.
Jackson,
Yes.
but that one's not a
Yes. I
Christmas
love that.
movie.
I think that's the first time I discovered Samuel L. Jackson, like, really, I think. But
Oh yeah,
no, so someone brought this up in a work meeting, and then I thought, well, if you could take Christmas out of the plot, does it still work? And then someone's like, well, no, because this takes place at a Christmas party. And I was like, oh, so that means it
true.
is a Christmas movie. I think if anyone ever tries to argue that, you got to say, without the Christmas plot, the Christmas part of it, it wouldn't happen.
Very good point.
Um,
And
and
that's
so
why Gundam 0080
that's what I was gonna say.
is a
Is
Christmas,
they
but
needed the supplies,
Endless
the
Waltz
decoration.
not.
Yep, that's where I was going with this.
Great minds, great minds.
Yeah. So
But
very
yeah, no.
cool.
I think my wife and I, our Christmas movie of choice is Christmas Vacation. Big
Oh
Chevy
yeah.
Chase fans. Love the Vacation series. So, um,
Have you seen Community?
I haven't. My wife has.
Okay. Because I just started it because I keep hearing about it, and then they're making a new either movie or show. So it's like I might as well go watch it. And you know what? The writing is really good. It's Rick
Solid.
and Morty guy and the Russo brothers that do the Avengers movies.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, and
I've been
so
wondering
watching, I'm
what
like, wow.
Dan Harmon's been up to. Like,
Well, yeah, the writing is so good, and I was like, man, this is funny. And Chevy Chase is in it, and his parts are pretty funny, playing an old guy. Kind of relates sometimes, but yeah.
awesome. Yeah, I feel you on that. Sayla says it's not Christmas until Hans Gruber falls off of Nakatomi Tower. True. I'm sure that if you look on Instagram right now, there's people tweeting or people posting about like if you start Die Hard at like what 10:58 p.m. on Christmas Eve, Hans Gruber will
Oh,
fall off Nakatomi Tower at midnight Christmas Day. Um,
wow. You know what? That really makes me like, if I ever am able to create stories that could be mass consumed, I would want to make one that is centered around Christmas as well. I don't know what it is about it. Not that I have any religious affiliation to anything. It's just kind of a cool celebration that a lot of people like to get in on. It's fun.
there's something about the season special. Um,
You know?
I think that most people are in better spirits. Obviously, I've worked in retail. I know that a lot of people in chat, you guys have worked or are currently working in retail. I will tell you that there are people that do not have the Christmas spirit, and
Yeah.
they make themselves known. But
Yeah.
generally speaking, people are people are awesome.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone has it in them. Everyone has that. They just want to be able to feel it. They want someone to come to them, be compassionate, and so yeah, it's always a good time of the year to give. Really,
Yes.
it feels better than you think.
Yeah.
But
And
also,
oh shoot.
oh no, I was gonna say because Giannic Shadow saying Nightmare Before Christmas is a Christmas movie too, and that's actually a good one because that's just such a creative movie. And then
Yes.
Autonomous is not a Christmas movie, but we'd always watch Fifth Element for Christmas because that's another thing. Maybe there's that thing you do around Christmas or watch
Exactly.
around
There's a
Christmas. Yeah.
tradition that has to do. It's not necessarily that the content that you consume itself is Christmas related. Whatever your family unit, and again, family is a unit that's defined by different people as different things, right? Like family might just be like the friends that you hung out with in college, and that's what you guys
Yeah.
do. Um, but whatever it is that you guys do, that is Christmas movie of the.
Yeah. Like playing video games during Thanksgiving. For some reason, that's always been a thing.
Oh
Like
yeah.
Assassin's Creed sticks out because I remember going back to my parents' house, playing Assassin's Creed with my brother during Thanksgiving. COD is also, Call of Duty is a Thanksgiving thing.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
With my family, it's always FIFA because we're big soccer
Oh.
fans. So like
Oh.
now, of course, my nephew just whoops us up and down, and he's I think he's a teenager now. At the time, he would be beating us, and it's like, oh well, it's probably because he's got like better fast twitch muscle fibers in his hands and stuff like that. I think it was probably that my brothers and I had too much eggnog, and couldn't keep up with the
Yeah.
youngin.
Yeah, I could see that. That's good.
Sayla says that the family would watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy every Christmas. That is an awesome I think that's something
Yeah.
that's beautiful, because the Lord of the Rings trilogy, that's, I feel like that's a movie trilogy that's gonna hold up.
I haven't finished it. The only one I saw was Two Towers, and I left in the middle of it.
Oof.
I know. Maybe someday I'll get into
To
it.
be
For
fair, I
some
know you're
reason,
not a fantasy guy, so
of what?
you're not a fantasy guy. Like,
Oh, fantasy. Yeah, that's weird, but I think I should be. I think I'd appreciate it because it deals with kind of ancient, historical, ancient human stuff.
that's true.
Yeah, getting to
You
come
know, Nick
around to
Shadow
that.
says his family watches Goodfellas.
Oh,
You know what?
that's
I
a good one though.
respect that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And speaking of which, Zionic Shadow, I saw you shout out my SDDecember build. I did finally finish it. My
Oh,
little Zaku 2. I had to swap out some of the water slide decals because they peeled off of the shield, but I'm really proud of how he turned out. You know, he's got his little thruster backpack that lights up under blacklight.
okay.
The
That's what I was wondering. Yeah,
Heat Hawk lights up his eyes, and then there's like a light on his chest that I put there. Um, I'm really proud of this
dude.
little guy for what he does. This is actually the cross silhouette uh Zaku 2.
Oh yeah, so they have the more, they're a little bit bigger and have the articulation
Yeah, a little bit
in the arms
better.
and legs.
A little bit better on articulation. Well, so they actually come with two frames. Is they have an
Right.
SD frame and then they have the CS frame. The Zaku and the Zeta do not come with the CS frame. They frame. So I think it's only the RX-78 that comes with cross silhouette frame. And then you would have to buy another one separately.
Mm. Okay, so a couple things. W- So awesome, like really, I don't know how you feel because you made it yourself, but that Zaku looks sick as hell. Like, so when you painted it, did you do like a primer layer and then did you airbrush?
Oh, no, I didn't paint this guy. He is just
Really?
weathered. Um,
Oh, okay.
so
So
yeah,
it's the weathering that really makes it pop. Wow, because I
yeah, I did a little
thought there's so
pastel
much detail into
weathering.
that.
Water slide decals.
Ah,
I did paint on the anything that was the day glow effect. I panel lined him. I actually used, so it's a thinner jar, but I mixed up my own panel line juice with a enamel paint and mineral spirits. This is a gull gray,
wow.
and what I like about this is that it shows up on black plastic. So, like for instance, I have the Psycho Gundam back here
Mm.
is panel lined with this, and it's great for like panel lining dark colored pieces, because the whole point is to get like contrast, right? So if you
Yes.
have a black plastic piece that you want to put something on there to kind of make it pop. So this panel line juice is really good because it adds the gray panel line to black plastic, and really that's the only thing I use black. You know, you could use it on, just any kind of dark Gunpla, but you know,
Yeah, so whenever you get a chance, you don't have to do it right now. Take some closer pictures of the Psycho Gun. I'd like to see what it looks like
yeah.
with that panel lining because I have that one too, and I haven't done anything to it, and I've been considering, but not too sure. Zionic Shadow is saying the new Tornado Gundam kit is going to have both frames when it comes out. So what's cool about the Tornado Gundam is, as far as I know, that's exclusive to the G Generation games, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's for some reason that's cool because it's like it came out that way. So then it would be obviously a Gunpla would be in that sort of form,
Right.
and that's pretty cool. I saw that recently, and typically I wouldn't really care because it's not like a Canon UC thing, but G Generation is just so fun. I have that attachment to the Tornado.
I mean, G Generation is fantastic. I think that like the Tornado, the Phoenix,
Oh yeah,
all of
Phoenix
the
is another one.
Gundams that are part of that universe are a lot of fun. I think did you get the Phoenix Gundam as part of your SD Battle Alliance pack?
Oh, I might have because I'm that type of guy that just does UC stuff. So
I mean,
I probably had that in there.
I only used it because it was the first sharpshooter that I had that,
That's right. Yeah,
you know,
that's
because
right.
of because I got the pre-order version of Battle Alliance, it came with some of the G generation Genesis and the Liu Bei, Cao Cao, and what Sun Jian, like the Dynasty Warriors guys,
Good
the
job with
Gundams.
those names. I wouldn't remember
I
that,
do my
but
best.
yeah,
Well, I'm a
yeah,
big fan
those
of
were
Dynasty
included.
Warriors too, so
Yeah, no,
but yeah,
that's
the
yeah.
the
And you, but a fan of Dynasty Warriors proper outside of the themed games.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I really
Cool.
enjoy like the Romance of the Three Kingdoms, like that era of Chinese mythology has then been translated into video games because like you have the Dynasty Warriors series of games, but then you also have like there's like a Romance of the Three Kingdoms tactics game, like a it's like a
Yeah,
strategy. It's a lot like
I remember that.
SDG generation, where
Hmm.
you've got units that you move around the battlefield and stuff like that. But I mean, the story behind it is so fascinating. You have these kind of like godlike heroes that stand among normal army veterans, right?
Ah,
Guys like Lubu, which I know anyone in the
yeah, I always
chat
hear
who's
about that.
played
Yeah.
the Dynasty Warriors knows Lubu. When Lubu shows up on the battlefield, like things are about to go down. So, and there's something to that, I think. And we've talked about this before. I think either on the Gundam Explained podcast or on this show, you know, there's like a there's this weird sort of mythology that we build up around war and warriors and you know, um we hype up these larger than life characters
That's
and
right.
I really dig that.
Yeah, I mean, it must really come from a time where there were these standout superheroes, you know? Whereas, nowadays it's very easy for people to have access to things that allow them to achieve some greatness. But back in the day, I'm sure with the limited resources, there would only be a few standout people
Yeah,
during certain times. Um, Very cool. Original superheroes. Yeah.
exactly. So with that said, and because you brought up SD G Generation Genesis, one of the things that I wanted to share tonight, and I've got a lot. Man, we've got a lot of stuff to cover, and we're already 20 minutes deep, and I haven't even showed off a single thing. So, a couple of things that I wanted to show off using this month's Patreon reward, which is a which is basically a stat from one system to another. It's available again until, well, I'll probably go ahead and extend the availability of it beyond Christmas or whenever. But the point is, it's a algorithm that converts stats from one system to another. It's designed to be used for tabletop games. It can be used for video games as well. What I have done with it, I have gone ahead and if you are familiar with tabletop skirmish game Heroescape, I have actually converted all of the units from SDG Generation Genesis to Heroescape. This was a pretty quick process since I have that algorithm. This is actually kind of where I designed it to work. And so right now on the screen, I've got my version of these units. And so it's like, we've got our Gundam, our gun cannon, gun tank, all of the good stuff. And each of these units has a certain number of hit points. They have a certain number of attack and defense. I'm a big fan of the way that Heroescape designed their combat because there's not a lot of number crunching. It's like I have my attack value, you have your defense value. I roll this many attack dice, you roll that many defense dice, and whatever we come up with, if there's more attack dice than defense dice, then you get hurt, right? It's very easy to handle at the table, which is good because Heroescape obviously kind of gimmick behind that game, for those of you not familiar with it, is that you build a different scenario with each, so the map changes. In fact, let me go ahead and pull up we've got Board Game Geek here, and this is the HeroScape Master Set that came out way back in 2004. I was playing
Oh,
this game in college because I was a nerd, and it was the only way I could make friends. So, if we pull up some of the, you can see that the map is kind of built by stacking these hexagonal plates on top of each other, which, the building the map is probably the longest part that of the game, because actually playing only took like between 30 minutes and an hour.
that sounds like fun though.
Absolutely. It
I'm
was
about that.
and I mean, you can see people got really really creative with some of these builds.
Wow. Yeah, that
Um
is very cool. It reminds me of, as a kid when you're playing action figures, first you'd set up everyone before you'd start playing. And I think this is kind
Absolutely.
of the gamification of it to add that strategy
Yeah.
on top of it. Yeah.
Well, and you probably similar to me. One of the things that my little brother and I used to do was we would like stack up pillows and stuff on the floor and then throw a white sheet over everything, and we would say that it was the Battle of Hoth, and
Oh
we would
yeah.
like set up the AT-AT and the yeah. So
Yep. That's
same
cool.
thing. My brother and I, when we were a little bit older, we would like, all right, we're gonna sit down, we're gonna spend an hour building out this map, and then we're gonna play some HeroScape. And yeah, like I said, the gameplay mechanics behind this game are fantastic. Kind of died off after a while, and I see now on Hasbro Pulse that they are bringing it back in the Age of Annihilation. Um,
Yeah.
it
Yeah. I
looks
was looking
like
at that.
all of the oh man, so this is like, so Hasbro Pulse is like their version of Kickstarter, right?
Yep.
Um, this project did not meet its backer goal. Well, probably
Mm.
because what they ended up doing was they replaced the fully painted and story backed miniatures with these like cheap little, single color plastic miniatures, which, I can understand from a production standpoint. Yeah, it's probably easier to produce these like not hand painted um units. But and Adam, I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Given like the current state of the world, economy, and like what gamers crave, would you say that it would be more or less imperative on a game producer to deliver more quality products or cheaper, easier to mass produce products?
It definitely is quality. I mean, at the end of the day, it's quality because when things are quality, even if they're more expensive, there's enough of those rich kids out there that are gonna buy this stuff up, post it on social media, get people into it. And I mean, it reminds me of all the other Hasbro Pulse Kickstarter things they were doing. Like
Yeah.
I did I yeah, I haven't backed anything yet. I wanted to do the sail barge, but at that time I didn't have the money. That was expensive. And the Razor Crest wasn't my thing, but I keep watching what they do. I am surprised. But you know what? Looking at the everything that comes with it, 250 seems high for the fact of how simple these are. Maybe if they were grayscale and the point was to customize them, like that was a bigger part of it, I think that would attract more people because I love the tile aspect, building bases,
Oh yeah.
like the fact that you are already translating the Gundam aspect to it. You're already creating the minis anyone could 3D print. And then I guess if you were to maybe buy these tiles like off eBay or the old ones and then start building your own bases, like that goes into like the collector mode along making it a pastime. So it's not just you're collecting, but then you can actually play it. I think I've mentioned this before, that crossover needs to happen and companies almost get there, but they don't. Like Nintendo with Amiibos, I think did a good job with that. But there's I think Gunpla, and I guess they're trying to do it with the battle log or the real Gunpla warfare thing. But I think seeing the Heroescape, like seeing people like to play Carcassonne, Settlers of Catan, like seeing the tiles where you can build bases or build maps, but then play a strategy game on top of it. I feel like it's just never been done correctly. Like, I think the potential's there.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, I agree with you. I think that you know, like you said, it's just the execution is lacking,
Yeah.
and and you mentioned like 3D printing and the idea that the access to miniatures has never been for tabletop gamers, whether it's role playing games or war games, skirmish games, Warhammer, BattleTech, whatever your flavor of tabletop game is. Because of 3D printing, access to those units has always has been it's way higher than it's ever been. Um, but the idea that like access to quality miniatures that are like ready to play, that is where that's where a company like Hasbro should be able to up their game. Say like, look, yes, we understand that this board game is $300 as opposed to could probably 3D print these things for 20 bucks in your garage, but that's the extra mile that we as a big company are willing to go in order to deliver that product to you. Versus something like this where it's like, if I have the rules to the game and I have the ability to make the piece, I what do I need this for?
That's a good point because I do think like it should be where it's here you go, here's this Heroescape game, whatever. There's gonna be the people that will buy the pieces, and then there's gonna be the people who are like, well, I'm gonna just 3D print them, and then there could be where you know what Hasbro has the STLs for download, and they're cheap.
That's another.
You know what? Yeah, and maybe to stop piracy, you can only download it through a specific program that then has to see your printer. I don't know, but it's
Which is
it's like
fair.
the options are there because it could be that someone likes to 3D print, but they don't want to create the file themselves. So having the STL helps. Or someone doesn't want to 3D print, they know they can buy the figures. Like I think the options is what is going to create a wider market for it.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's part of Hasbro Pulse, like kind of in general, is the Hasbro Pulse kind of needs to adopt more of a Kickstarter friendly mentality, because if you look at like a lot of Kickstarters that are board games, things like Madara or one of the board games I got was Dire Wild. You have the higher backer tier option where you can get their hey, we'll print the minis for you, or we'll print and paint the minis for you, or you can just buy the basic game with the STLs and you can do all the work yourself, and they're priced appropriately. So if you give customers the option, they'll come to you, especially if you have a solid product that you can deliver on. And I think that Heroescape as a franchise, as a property, it's got the potential to be something really cool. Me and my college buddies would cruise to different stores, in the middle of the night, like trying to find to play and stuff.
Ah,
Um,
that's fun.
and yeah, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it, like the story behind it was pretty sweet. These like five sort of godlike entities that are plucking soldiers and warriors and mythological creatures throughout all of existence and all of the different multiverses, and like so then you end up having
Ah,
like World War II soldiers fighting werewolves, fighting colonial army, fighting cyborgs, fighting Krav Maga secret agents.
wow.
It it was pretty sweet. Um
That is. Yeah,
so
and that's the thing. This is all on me, but I haven't really gotten into these kind of tabletop board games. The more, and I don't know. I think it's, and I could be wrong here, but I think it's they probably all have different rules. So
exactly.
I wonder if it would be advantageous for the industry of this is to make kind of like a general like e- entry strategy that then IPs would adopt for their versions, but then that would help be a gateway to people that want to get into the more advanced ones. Because, like, I've seen they have Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Power Rangers, and these are things I like,
They
but
just
it's like,
kickstarted the Elden Ring board game.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, Steam
And
Forge.
sometimes it's like, Is this something I would like? Would I end up playing the game and the strategy and realize, this isn't, oh, I figured out the meta here. It's not that interesting anymore, but it's like you have to invest to get into it. So I think them coming up with maybe not only like high quality, but then also maybe some entryway, to get entry level way to get into it. Um,
That's that's definitely the
yeah, I mean, seeing that they attempted to kickstart it and it just did not work, I think is telling. Um,
yeah, and
very telling.
it was about a little over 50% backed.
Yeah, I mean, there's interest in it for sure.
Yeah,
It's cool that Hasbro's trying this stuff out because they're even doing that with like Dungeons and Dragons action figures, I
yeah, I've
think,
noticed
and
that.
yeah, so that is pretty interesting.
Which, of course, the running joke is now, of course, that the Dungeons and Dragons movie has been pushed back. Which is like, if you've ever played Dungeons and Dragons, you know everyone has a scheduling conflict that comes up. So of course it got pushed back.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't. That's a good one. I did not know
It's a
that.
good little meme.
Although, to be honest, that movie looks cool. And here's another thing. I liked that original campy, was it late 90s, early
Oh
2000s
yeah, the one
movie?
with oh, who's
Jeremy
the
Irons?
actor? Jeremy Irons. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Like, it was obviously, like, I don't schlocky, but I liked it. I don't know what it was. It was
I
just,
definitely have a weakness for campy, just over the top fantasy or sci-fi for that matter movies. You know, like I loved the original Willow. One of my favorite
mm.
movies of all time is Krull, which
Oh, love it. Oh,
from '83. Yeah,
yes. Oh,
with
that,
the
yes, that
glaive.
is a good one. Yeah, that's funny because no one ever talks about that movie, but it would just be on TV.
Yeah,
And I remember like being blown away by what I was seeing.
right.
Yeah, that.
I mean, like
Oh, I gotta show my son then. I gotta
man,
bring
as a
that up.
kid, and I would be so scared watching like the Widow of the Web scene, and it's like the spider is being held by the hourglass that the Widow of the Web has, and it's like, oh man, is he gonna make it out of there before the spider is free to move? And you know, that's
Wow, and Liam Neeson was in that.
Liam Neeson was in that. Yeah,
I had no idea. Yeah,
you
I'm just looking it up right
you
now.
know who else?
Wow.
Hagrid, the actor who played Hagrid, was one of the bandits as
I don't know if
well.
that's the Lord of the Rings thing. I don't
No,
know.
no,
Hagrid.
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't know Harry Potter
That's
either.
all the
Sorry.
same. They're all the
Yeah.
same.
Oh, yeah, it's the same thing.
Same,
Oh god,
uh,
that would piss people off.
but but yeah, so with the discussion of Heroescape, basically what I did was I've got a Google spreadsheet here that has every unit from SDG Generation Genesis. It's got all of their stats from their cost to their size, their HP, their energy, their attack stats, their defense stats, how many spaces they can move per turn, all of that good stuff. And then basically I ran it all through my little calculator and said, okay, what is maximum and move speeds of a hero escape unit? Like, well, they can like a minimum of 2 to 3 spaces. They can move like a maximum of 7. So then pressing down the movement range of SDG generation, I calculated out here's how many spaces these units can. Most of them fall within 4 to 5. There are a couple I think that breach the 6 range, and that's only like super, mobile units that are flying, things like that. Um, and then of course, depending on whether or not the unit was, this was actually the most complicated equation that I had to come up with, was whether or not the unit deserved to. Because one of the unique things about HeroScape, among other tabletop games, is that you have some units, or I guess squads you would call them, that are more than one figure per card. So like, you
Oh,
might you
cool.
might have one card that represents one super unit. And I think like
Yeah.
of the Marvel units, you would have like one card represents Iron Man. You only have one Iron Man. But then you have like the Roman Legion, and that's 4 Roman Legionnaires. So you have 4 units that can move around, all having the same stats that are on the card. And so using the rarity and the cost of the units from SDG Generation Genesis, I was able to calculate out like, okay, so if you were to buy a Zaku 2 squad, it would be a squad of 3 Zaku 2s. Versus if you were to buy a Gundam, it would be one Gundam.
I like that. That makes sense. Wow, I can't believe how that translates so well over. It's like made for it.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons that I was so passionate about doing this. This is one of those little side projects that I devoted way too much time to. Not that much time, but enough time that I'm embarrassed to say how much time I spent putting this together. And so that said, between that and the 3D prints of the minis, I have everything I need to
Yeah.
make a Gundamscape game.
I think so, because really, I think the next step would be nailing down what you would want a tile to look like, which it could be the same exact thing. But again, that, and then what would a general wall or something look like? And then you could have some sort of like starter STL pack people could download. And yeah, that would, and just to have fun, it's like for people that are not 3D printing enthusiasts, but they have a 3D printer, it's like, who really cares totally about the quality and getting it right? You just want to pump out tiles and then slap them together and build
Yeah.
the scenery. Yeah, that
And
is
that's another thing that I think is kind of a lot of people consider that having a 3D printer is kind of a barrier to entry, but you have services like Shapeways where if you
yeah,
have an
for sure.
STL, they will print it for you, for whatever the nominal cost is. It's probably more expensive than it would be if you were to
Yeah.
print it yourself, obviously, but that there are ways to, if you have the file, you can get it printed.
Yeah, and I see, there's some uh amateur archaeologists I follow, and they'll go out to Egypt, Peru, and they use their phones and they do a scan, and then they have in their 3D program a fully 3D representation. It's like, you know what? If you wanted to, you could 3D print that. So just thinking of getting the pieces, scan them. I know there might be some like piracy involved, but really, if you're doing it just for your own, pleasure to have like a ton of tiles out. Yeah, I remember when I bought like this Robot Spirits hanger, white base hanger. I got my phone and I tried to like copy it and then like put it. I couldn't get it to work, but I wanted to be able to extend it and make a whole white base.
It's man,
There's something there to that.
I'd like to do that with the Argama behind me.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, as Brendan Herrera said over on the AK Guys YouTube channel, it's like anyone who thinks that you can just get a 3D printer and then anything you can imagine is just made for you, you're going to be sorely mistaken. There's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of work that goes into it to perfecting those 3D
Yeah.
models that
That's right. I would. It's like rarely ever do you print something on the first time and it's exactly what you wanted.
exactly.
It's just it's crazy how it's like that.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so that is one of the little I guess side projects I've been working on. I haven't
Cool.
posted this one here on Instagram. Probably going to post it tomorrow for everyone's viewing pleasure. But, to bring the subject back around to Gunpla, I did finally manage to uh strip my angel hair wires without tearing
Oh,
them apart. And so now I have some EL wires that, if you can look
wow.
closely enough, they have some Zazabi funnels on them. So the
Wow.
the Zazabi project is well underway, and we are going to be. Ooh, I just electrocuted myself. It's okay. It's like a 9-volt battery, so it's not. It was a
Right.
minor electrocution. No brain cells were damaged in the filming of this
Let's
live
hope.
stream, but yeah. So
Man, that is sick.
I'm very excited at the potential of this because this means that I am going to be able to thread all 6 of my funnels through my silicone molded Azabi backpack,
Oh.
and I'm going to be able to have like, some full on lit up funny funnel effects. Um so yeah, that was a major accomplishment for me this week, considering I've spent like 3.5 weeks trying to strip these wires, and every single time I would break those stupid thin angel hair wires. So I'm going to make a video here in the next week or so showing the process that I use to actually strip EL wire, because it is a lot trickier than people might anticipate. And I hope that it will help people if they are trying to do something similar to what I'm doing, having funnel effects that are lit up.
Yeah, I think that would be something. I mean, because there's when you see that, it's amazing, and sometimes it's like, where do I start? But yeah, video to that. But that's kind of impressive. Steven, just think about it. You just did this HeroScape thing or whatever. That you translated everything. You just the angel hair LED wires, and then the your SDDecember.
SDDecember,
Very
boom, there you
productive.
go.
Congratulations.
Yeah, you think I'm done? Oh, we're not
Uh-oh.
we're not done yet, because one of the other secret projects that I've been working on is something I'd like to call Gundams Without Number. If you're
Hmm.
in the tabletop community space and you know about alternative systems other than Dungeons and Dragons, you might have heard of a tabletop role playing game called Stars Without Number. It is a sci-fi role-playing game that I'm a big fan of. It's D20 based. It's similar to D&D, but without a lot of the class restrictions. And so what I have done is similar to the Gundam Scape conversion. I took my G Generation Genesis stats and I ran them through my algorithms, and I have gone ahead and created stats for all of the mobile suits from G Generation Genesis for Stars Without Number.
Wow.
The actual values that you get end up being kind of super compressed because of the way that Stars Without Number handles mecha. Obviously you see that like all of their speeds are like twos down the board, and that's just the nature of the size of the mech.
Ah,
But that's actually pretty fast considering, what they are.
oh,
So
okay.
yeah, well, like I said, I'm always tinkering around and seeing what's going to be an interesting place to explore the Gundam
Yeah,
aspect of.
and find out what sticks, because that's what a lot of it is. It's like trying to figure out what sticks, what's
Yeah,
something to move forward with. Yeah.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
then Robert's asking, have you heard of gamma wolves?
Yes, yes, I am familiar with Gamma Wolves. Um, that someone brought it up on Discord the other day. Now, Gamma Wolves is a good one for like for skirmish games, I believe, and then also for role playing games. Everyone always mentions either Mechton Zeta or Jovian Chronicles. Jovian Chronicles is a little bit easier to grasp and a little bit more fun than Mechton Zeta in my personal opinion. But you know, right now I think that at least until the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons comes out, Dungeons and Dragons 5e is just so accessible to everyone that it's easy to just say, "Hey, Dungeons and Dragons rules, but Gundamified."
Yeah. See, yeah, I got to get on one of these someday. It would be fun. I think yeah, to find something that I could play with the kids, like a little strategy game.
Yeah.
Sometimes playing Guess Who and Monopoly, it gets old.
Yeah, I was out shopping for Christmas gifts the other day, and I realized that now they have like a cheaters edition of Monopoly
Oh,
that like
okay,
comes
that's
with a
funny.
set of handcuffs.
Oh, that's interesting. Where that would go.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, yeah, I'm not sure what the difference would be aside from like, I don't
Hmm.
know, does somebody play as the Federal Reserve and like I don't know.
Yeah, it makes it where you can cheat. It's open to cheat, and if you get caught, you handcuff the person for real. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, that's
I'm not sure how that would work out.
yeah.
But
Huh.
but yeah, so I mean, like I said, it's one of the things that that this little algorithm that has been so good for is crunching out numbers for role playing games, for video games, all kinds of different stuff that you know, we want to Gundamify, or maybe we just want to change it to something else. Maybe we want to go from fantasy to sci-fi, whatever the case may be.
And this is something I don't know, but when a company comes up with a rule set, is it like theirs, they own it?
I'm kind of up in the air about that because it's like,
Hmm.
do you really own a rule set or do you just own the text around it, right? Like,
Yeah.
that was a discussion on Discord earlier today where someone was saying,
Oh,
like, I mean, if you rewrote the entire Dungeons and Dragons player handbook in your own words, then it's yours. Like the
hmm.
rules themselves, like you can't copyright rules because anybody could come up with that rule set. The only thing that you're copywriting is the artwork in the book, the text in the book, the names that are associated with those things. So, like, yeah, you can't go around and call things a beholder or a mind flayer. That stuff is copyrighted. But, like, you know, you don't own a copyright on squid faced people. Like, you,
Yeah.
you can't.
Yep. Yeah, only Cthulhu owns that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hmm.
Unless Lovecraft is going to come to my door and, you know,
Yeah, I would say, hey, it's been a long enough time, buddy. Everyone owns it now.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
You know, real quick, when you guys brought up Hagrid earlier,
Oh yeah.
like, a- and then I was looking on this Wikipedia that I recognized that guy, and he was in two James Bond movies. He was in
Yes.
GoldenEye, and he came back in The World Is Not Enough. I mean, I know it's Pierce Brosnan, but I loved those
I
movies.
love Pierce
Um,
Brosnan.
yeah. And then yeah, someone in chat was saying R.I.P. because he had passed away.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a shame to hear about that. That was you know.
yeah, recently. Hmm. But that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, it's recognized his face. Yeah, from James Bond.
Sayla in chat is saying that that she's played Vampire the Masquerade and Scion, both are D10 systems. Call of Cthulhu is another D10 based system similar to those, and Delta Green. I played a lot of Delta Green. Um, and yeah,
Yeah, White
those
Wolf
those would be
Publishing
interesting.
sounds familiar.
Yeah, White
And
Wolf Publishing. You know, the interesting bit of trivia, there was a wrestler in the 90s by the name of Gangrel, who his whole gimmick was that he was a vampire. Well, the name Gangrel comes from Vampire the Masquerade. And so at the end of every WWF wrestling program, they would have to put like Gangrel is the trademark property of White Wolf Publishing. Like,
oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah, I think if I'm not mistaken, and I could be there. I remember this game on Xbox called Hunter the Reckoning, and I heard that was from a tabletop, and I
yeah.
loved that video game version of it. Like that was sick.
Oh,
I don't know if
absolutely.
that sounds familiar. Have you heard of Hunter?
I have, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, it was co-op. Oh yeah, I played a bunch of that on Xbox, and then they did re-release it for Xbox One. Like it's backwards compatible, but it's still fun. But games age so fast now that a game from the mid 2000s is just missing all those little things that make a game a game.
Yeah, yeah, the little nuance. There's a lot of those little details that people tend to forget about when they're chasing things like, oh, well, we have optimal ray tracing, and like,
Yeah, and I guess if the Hunter came from a role playing game, it's like the original role playing game then probably has more features than the actual. Yeah, because I remember there was upgrading to a point, but not probably as in depth as the actual tabletop or whatever, the role playing game, which
yeah,
nowadays we're seeing the video games are really integrating that stuff
I
a lot
hope
more.
so. I mean, for one thing, and if we're gonna shift gears to video games, I've got a little project here that I've been working on that this is part of my dynamic AI that I've been developing in Unity, and I spent a lot of time working on it this week. Um, I'm pretty proud of the results that I've gotten because basically what I've just developed is a sort of universal timer that as the timer runs and the AI has certain AI sensory inputs. So I have like two different scripts. So one of them is the AI sensory input, so it takes in all the data of the world. The other one is the AI behavioral input, which is like how it acts based on the input that it's getting. So the inputs that it's getting, all of a sudden now it can do these interesting things, such as, for instance, I've got an AI that I've developed here that will strafe around the player and kind of interact at random intervals. So you don't see some of the other things that are going on under the hood here. Like basically you just see one character kind of hovering around another, orbiting them. Um, but the thing that I've developed is not only does the enemy AI randomly pick a point to hover around the character to, but they also pick a random action that is weighted based on what the player is doing. So if the player is attacking them, they will do certain actions more frequently than moving side to side. If not, then they will move side to side in order to avoid being shot. It looks like he
Hmm.
just ran off the map because he just
It's like
he
nothing's happening.
got bored
I'll find
and
the next
said,
person.
"No." Um,
Oh, there he is. Back in the distance. That's hilarious.
but yeah, so this was an interesting little tidbit, and you know that I'm fascinated by the idea of random generation and
Yeah.
AI development and taking in things that maybe are not so readily accessible to the player, because the idea, I think, behind designing enemy AIs, and in particular designing enemy boss fights, because that's what I've been working on recently, is designing boss fights where you can't predict the pattern that the boss is going to
Mm.
attempt to use. Or if you start to predict the pattern, if you reach a point where you've interrupted their attacks more than 2 or 3 times, all of a sudden they're like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to hit you this way, or I'm going to do. And so that's
Yeah, because
part of
that's
the algorithm development.
yeah, that's pretty good because that's the thing with these Souls games is, they're hard, but then once a player understands the boss loop, their attack patterns, it's like you can play it without even
Yeah,
getting hit. And that's cool on one level because that's some tight design, but at the same time, to have something dynamic like this would be very fun because you never know how you have to react.
exactly. That's the goal that I'm going for. Is I want to make people feel like they are playing against a live person.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a
and
good way to
and
put it.
and sometimes, this is the interesting thing. Uh, okay, I have an excellent example. So, for instance, uh, my family, when we go to the beach, we love to play Texas Hold'em poker. It's just like a thing that we do. And one of the things that my brother-in-law did that drove him insane is that my little brother's friend didn't know how to play poker, and he would just like, okay, yeah, I'm in. I want to play. I'm not gonna fold. No, I'm not gonna raise. No, I'm not gonna fold. And he would just like gamble his way to victory, because he would have a terrible hand if you knew the rules and you were like, hey, a 2-7 in your hand is probably not great, but then you end up getting a 2-7 on the flop, and it's like, oh well, then all of a sudden that 2-7 becomes two pairs. And so what would happen is this like 11-year-old kid is beating the crap out of a 30-year-old man. And the reason that he's beating him is not because he's playing optimally, but because he's playing suboptimally.
Yeah,
And
that reminds me of one time I hosted because my friends are into it, a Texas Hold'em game at my house, and I played just for fun. I didn't really get it. It was more of just to have the people there.
yeah,
And I'm playing, and I'm like, man, I don't know if this hand is good. What do you think? I'm telling this guy, um, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. And then I go to fold, but we look at my hand, and I realize it was something I don't know, but I would have won that round.
yeah.
But it's that kind of thing I think you're talking about, where it's like you kind of random and it's random. Random things will come out of the suboptimal knowledge that you have for something. Yeah.
And so that's something that I think is lacking in video game AI, is that video game AI will either behave super optimally because it has the ability to, right? Like there's so many video games where enemies will block when they know you're about to hit, because they know you're about to hit, because the video game knows when you hit the attack button, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
oh, well, block, or they're just so dumb that they're just going to get whopped by you. So it's like,
Yeah.
what if we introduce that element of randomness and not like super random? Like, I don't want to do what I just did here where like the AI runs off the map because I guess it got scared. But, what if we introduce that element of randomness? Like, sometimes it's going to block, sometimes it might attack you back. I don't know.
Oh, but man, something popped in my head. What if you were fighting a boss and in game you were too high level for it, so the boss runs off? But the thing is, you need to kill the boss to get a key. And so let's say it's an open world game and the boss hides somewhere. So the game dynamic changes where you can talk to NPCs to get clues of where this guy would have been hiding. That'd be pretty interesting.
See, there you go. And that kind of introduces that dynamic gameplay that it's what makes tabletop gaming so much more appealing to a lot of
Yeah.
people compared to video games, because video games are very much on rails, they're linear. It's like, I know I have to do X to get Y. Well, sometimes you have to go and do I to get Z, or you got to go all the way back to W if you want to get X, because that's how tabletop games work. And so I think that ultimately that's the goal behind video games, right? Is it's like we want to try
Yeah.
and capture the the magic of tabletop games in a intimate space, because sitting around a table with a bunch of other people, that can be intimidating for introverts
Yeah.
and things like that. So I think that video games offer that opportunity for a more intimate conversation between the developer and the player. And the closer you can get to that back and forth where I can take the inputs from the player and give them something dynamic based on those, all the better.
Yeah. And that reminds me how John Carmack from id Software, you know, left Meta, and he is now just working exclusively on his new company, where it's just about a general AI system. And so that's I wonder, and I don't know the details. I don't know if that's for application for like other things or if it's related to video games, but it's pretty cool that he's now moved on from VR to AI. You know?
Interesting to see what he comes up with, because that's one of, I mean, that's a premier mind
Yeah,
in that space.
exactly.
So,
Hearing him talk is pretty amazing. Yeah.
but yeah, Robert is telling me in chat that it's time. We've been running an hour. This
Yeah.
has been like I
Well, I
said,
guess
this was probably the most variety we've ever gotten into this variety stream, because we've
yeah,
talked video games, we
that's
talked
fun.
tabletop games, we talked a lot of different stuff. We talked Gundam and Gunpla. There's a lot of stuff on the horizon for me, for the channel, for all the different projects that I'm working on. I just kind of wanted to give you guys a peek under the hood about what I've been doing the last month, because obviously I've been kind of laying low with the newborn and everything. So, yeah, I hope that you guys have kind of enjoyed this little chat. I know that, I always enjoy chatting with you, Adam.
Oh yeah, this is always fun. Always love
Um,
it.
and yes, I am designing the nightmare boss of of Dark Souls games. I
In that
think
little game.
Sayla said that I'm going to piss off players, and that's the goal. I just
Yeah, I mean, once everyone kind of gets over the whole Souls game type, what's next? You know?
yeah, I mean, you have to challenge people, and sometimes challenging people, um, you know, I don't mean challenging people in ways that are like, hey, I'm going to intentionally aggravate you. I mean challenging
Yeah.
people, like offering them new opportunity to show what they're capable of doing, because I think that a lot of players are kind of hankering for that. You mentioned like the new God of War game is very like, you know, lowest common denominator.
Yeah. And I don't know if we talked about it, but that they what is the system called? I forget, but it's built to basically dynamically be easier for the player.
Yeah.
It's built to tell you how to do a puzzle, making a boss easier so that you can get through the game. Frictionless gaming is what they're calling it.
Frictionless
Yeah.
gaming. Capcom actually, I mean, I'm probably going to go off into another tangent here, but Capcom obviously does a great job with like the Resident Evil games with the dynamic difficulty. Um, and then you have the option, if you play on hardcore mode, that the dynamic difficulty is shut off and just everything is
Ah,
cranked to the max. but
Yeah.
I do love the idea of like an invisible difficulty meter where it's like if
Yeah.
you're struggling, the game is going to go a little easier on you in certain ways, but not it's not detectable ways, right? It's not okay, all of the enemies are going to be half HP because that would be too easy for players to say like,
Yeah.
okay, I know that if I take 17 hits, then all of the enemies are going to be half HP and I don't have to spend as much ammo to kill them. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to create a system where people are able to game the system.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, that said, this has been an exciting stream for me. I'm happy to share all of these new goodies that I've been working on with you
I know.
guys.
It's amazing.
I feel like I've been, in my little workshop and not
Yeah.
as communicative with the community as I've been in past months. Oh, there we go. There we go. Looks like I have a little wiring problem that I need to address. So that said, thank you guys so much for tuning in for this extra special
Yeah.
Christmas stream. First Christmas with Adam
Yeah.
Blue.
Oh yeah.
I,
That's
I, I
true.
feel like that's got a nice ring to it.
First
So
Christmas with
so
Adam
looking
Blue.
forward to for looking forward to next week and looking forward to next year. We are going to be streaming next week, of course. But yeah, that
Nice.
said, uh, this has been great. Thank you guys for keeping the chat lively as always. Sayla, Robert, Ultronomus, Dan. I saw Lucas Garrett in there.
Yeah.
Zionic Shadow. You guys are the best. You guys are the reason that I keep doing this is
Exactly.
because you guys hang out with us and give us exciting stuff to talk about and poke fun at me when I'm being ridiculous.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Thanks
anything else
everyone.
that I'm forgetting, Adam? Oh well, of course. Tomorrow night, the Gundam Explained
Oh,
podcast,
yes.
8:30 Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Central. The pre-Christmas Gundam stream. Don't miss it
Yeah.
because
We'll,
that's
we'll talk about some Gundams of the year and some certain things. So if you check out the YouTube, I did in the community tab ask what's your favorite of this or that. So fill that out if you want to be featured on the show. So
definitely
yeah.
into it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
Oh, Brian Zanichelli
Oh,
just
Brian's
tuning
doing
in.
silly.
I hope that you're not just tuning in because then it's like, oh man, we're just about to
Yeah,
leave.
just click the slider and go back.
Yeah, just drag it back. Um, but no, thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your evening, a great rest of your week. Have a wonderful Christmas if you don't tune in
Yeah.
tomorrow, and we'll see you for New Year's.
Yeah. See y'all.
Cheers.